Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining me for another video. In today's video, I am taking you guys through my budgeting categories guide. Why a categories guide? Because most people get stuck in this area. I believe everyone should budget, but unfortunately, most everyone, the thought of budgeting sounds like nail on the chalkboard. And usually when I dig a little bit deeper as to why people are not budgeting, what I hear is that they don't know where to get started. And your budgeting categories is the foundation of your budget. So that's where we are starting this budgeting series. By you understanding how easy it is to categorize your expenses, it gives you a good starting point into your budgeting journey. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. I am going to flip over to screen sharing and we'll take you step by step through this budgeting categories guide. If you wanted to download this guide, it's completely free and available to you in the comments. So here is our budgeting categories guide. It is a comprehensive tool that organizes your finances. So I start the book by helping to give a little bit of context as to what the tool is. This is budgeting, like I mentioned earlier, right? This is the foundation of long-term financial success. It helps you understand where your money comes from and where your money goes. And without that clarity, you could be losing hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a month. At first, budgeting may feel challenging, but I promise it gets easier with practice, and especially it gets even easier once you've set it all up. When your systems are in place, updating and tweaking it becomes easier and it almost becomes second nature. The hardest part for most people is knowing how to categorize their expenses. So that's why we've created this budgeting categories guide. First of all, it's really important that you understand that your categories are really specific to you. If you're a mom, your categories are going to look different from a bachelor or a student. And your categories are also tailored to your specific lifetime situation. So somebody who has a running hobby is going to have different categories from somebody who's a new mom and you have a baby. And also it's unique to your life stages and family's responsibility. And these categories adjust as your needs shift. So flexibility here is key. And also keep in mind that your categories will evolve over time. Not all expenses will fit perfectly. So choose what works now and refine it as you go for better alignment. Start simple, but get started. Setting up your categories is hard at first, but it really does get easier. A final note. This guide is just that. It's a guide. It's not a rule book. It's not the 10 Commandments. It's not written in stone. And your budget also is not the 10 Commandments. It's not written in stone. It's going to evolve as your life changes. The most important thing is that you stick with it and you'll gain control, reduce stress, and take the steps towards financial freedom. So what is the best way to use this guide? When you are just starting out, right, these are the steps that I want you to follow in order for this guide to be successful to you. Start by exporting your bank data. You log into your bank account and export your transaction history into an Excel file. This is really important. And if you don't know how to export your expenses into an Excel file, most banks will have a place where you can type that in. And then you will set up a spreadsheet and you will create these particular columns. You will have your merchant. So on that spreadsheet, usually your banks, it will come somewhat already formatted like this. If it's not, try to use this particular formatting. Merchant or payee, where did the expense come from? The amount, the dollar amount that was spent, the date, The date the expense occurred, like it depends. Some banks will only give you one date, but some of them will tell you when the date came, when the expense came, and then when it actually cleared your account. So whatever you do, be consistent. That's really important when it comes to paying your bills on time and really knowing when recurring bills are coming. And then you will have a category section. What type of expense is it, right? So this is where this book is going to be critical. It's for that particular column. And then I usually like to add a note or a description, because trust me, you always have like one or two random expenses that you're not really sure where they're coming from. And then you will categorize your expense. I like to kind of prep what am I going to have in each category, and then take it to the Excel spreadsheet and then start plugging in my categories, because it goes faster. The reason why I want you to use this document alongside with Excel, because in Excel you can easily add up your expenses by categories, and that's how you conduct the analysis to really understand how much you are spending in each category. Okay, so this right here really shows you how to do an expense audit. So you can look at where your money is going and are certain that there isn't a category eating up more than expected. So the first method of budgeting categories that I'm going to talk about is the traditional method. This is the one that you see everybody out there doing. In this particular categorization method, you will have all of your expenses broken down into specific set of categories, main categories. And when you're doing your Excel expense audit, you will focus primarily on the main categories, unless you want it to be super detailed, but that becomes very cumbersome and you're making your life difficult. So right here, if you look at the top in pink, those are the main categories. Inside of the main categories, I have subcategories. And when we're conducting our analysis, we tend to conduct it based on our main categories and not necessarily the subcategories. For example, let's say somebody like me, because I invest in real estate, I have like 4 or 5 mortgages. If I wanted to turn that into a main category, that's up to me. But then, like, to make all of these specific things that you track becomes very cumbersome. So stick with main categories only, the things in pink. So under the home and housing, you see that we have our mortgage and rent, our phone, our electricity, our water and sewer, cable, waste removal, maintenance or repairs, supplies, and others. Auto and transport. We have vehicle payments, we have bus, taxi fare, insurance, licensing, fuel, maintenance, and others. As you go, if you think of other things, do add them, okay? Insurance. Do you want to have a main category just for insurance? I don't have a main category just for insurance because I don't really track them like that, but some people do. So this will be home, health, life. Business insurance will be here too. And then food and dining. Yes, I track food and dining, and I'm very particular when it comes to tracking food and dining, because this, you guys, is where we tend to overspend. So food and dining is definitely a big one. Now, if you want it for dining out, if you wanted to have fast food versus a regular restaurant, you can. At one point, my fast food eating was getting out of control, so I added a subcategory for fast food so I can be watching how much I was spending on that. So that's also an option. Pets. It's always important to have a clear idea of how much you're spending on your pets, because I don't think people realize how much they spend on their pets. Because for some people, I know your pets are your family, but if you're ever in a situation where you're like, ooh, I need to cut back, it's at least important for you to see how much am I spending on pet expenses. So this is food, medical, grooming, toys. I will also add boarding on here. If you have a daycare for your dog, you will add that here as well. Personal care, a very important one for a lot of people. Medical, hair, clothing, dry cleaning, health club, organization dues and fees. So I don't know, like, so for me, I have certain healthcare organizations that I belong to. I'll put the dues and the fees here. It's up to you though whether or not you want to include medical here or in the health section. Some people, to keep their categories small, they will have personal care and wellness together, but it's up to you. Entertainment, another big one. Video and DVDs and CDs. I'm like, I don't know if we still have that, but we included it because we do have some people who are still buying physical media. But movies, concerts, sports event, live theater, etc. Loans. This is a big category for me. Personal care loans, student, credit cards, home equity line of credits, tractors. All of those loans go up here. Taxes, federal, state, local, etc. Savings and investment, your retirement account, your investment accounts. You can keep adding to this. Like usually things like my Roth IRA, I will put under my retirement account. Anything from my brokerage, I will put under my investment account. If you wanted to put real estate, you can here as well. But for somebody like me, real estate in and of itself, right, is a whole nother enchilada in a whole nother category. Medical and health, co-pays, health, dental, medicines and vitamins. I would even add vision here. If you see a specialist for a particular condition, this is where I would also have that. Personal development and education. This one is really important for me. I run so many businesses, so I'm always taking some sort of course, seminar, doing a training. So I would put that under personal development and education. Kids and babies. Very important category. Daycare, babysitting, toys and activities, allowance, if you have to pay allowance to, a spouse, you will add that here. Travel, airfare, hotels, taxi, gifts and donation, charity. Something else that I include in gifts and donation, I send money to a family member overseas, so I include that in this section. Legal, attorney fee, alimony, payments on a lien or a judgment, and others. That could also be a section in and of itself. Some other things that you could also have as a category. Fees, for example. Somebody like me who has a lot of credit card debt, I want to track the fees. That becomes its own category. I'm not a big fan of having a miscellaneous category, but I do think that it's important to have some sort of miscellaneous category for things that you may not particularly know where they go. I just ask that you keep it at a minimum because it makes things a little bit more complicated. Now, we just talked about the traditional method of categorizing. You see that we have a lot of main categories and subcategories. But this is a simplified way, and I've used both of these methods. This one looks at your fixed versus variable expenses. So a fixed versus variable budgeting system, it divides your expenses into two main categories to kind of make budgeting simpler and more effective. So here's kind of a closer look at each one. So your fixed expenses will be your housing expenses, some of this, but it varies, right? So these are consistent and predictable costs you need to cover regularly. And fixed expenses will rarely fluctuate from month to month, making them easier for you to track, right? So think about your debts. Your mortgage and rent, they will stay the same. Your property taxes, even though they change, you have an idea that it's coming around how much it's going to be. Internet, phone, utilities, some of them do vary as well, but they will come every single month. I consider fixed expenses bills, right? Subscription services, saving goals will also go into your fixed expenses. And then you have the variable expenses. So your variable expenses, these are costs that not only change from month to month, but these are also go under the category of discretionary spending. So think food, transportation, entertainment, shopping for clothes, miscellaneous gifts, hobby, pet care, and unexpected expenses. The key to managing your variable expenses is flexibility. So you track what you typically spend in these areas and you set a reasonable spending limit or budget while you identify how to cut back. And what you would always notice is that it's your variable expenses, it's these discretionary expenses that most of us end up spending most of our money. It's not these fixed expenses that we need to live that cost us a lot of money. It's these variable expenses. How is this going to work? Start by calculating your monthly income. You will put that in the income category. And your fixed expenses, you will first start by deducting your fixed expenses from your monthly income. And then the remaining amount is what you're now going to assign to your variable expenses, right? So if you started with $5,000 in income, after you've allocated out all of your fixed expenses, it added up to $2,500. Now your variable expenses get $2,500 allocated to them. And then in the variable expenses, you prioritize based on importance. Clearly, you need food more than you need shoes, right? I would think. You adjust as needed. If variable spending exceeds your budget, look for ways to trim non-essentials. And there always is a way for you to trim non-essentials. Why does this system work? Because it's simple. Instead of worrying about the detailed categories we talked about earlier, you can focus on just looking at fixed versus variable. It's easier to maintain. It gives you quick monthly check-ins that really helps you see how much is remaining in your variable expenses, because at the end of the day, a lot of the stuff in your fixed categories are not going anywhere, right? You would need that to live. You would need that to take care of responsibility, except for things like streaming services. I have cut back. This is not to say that your fixed expenses don't need cutting back. You do need to cut back on the unnecessary stuff, but it just helps to make it easier. For me, every time I've overspent, it was grocery shopping, entertainment. And flexibility. This also allows you to change your discretionary spending while you are ensuring that your fixed obligations are met, right? So every time you budget, you're always starting with your fixed expenses first, getting those out of the way, then you take care of the variable expenses that are not as important. So the other budgeting method that is very effective is utilizing a software. You can use an online software, right? So if the thought of manually categorizing your transactions in an Excel file seems daunting, use an online software. It simplifies things. I actually use Simplified. So you can use Simplified. I like Simplified as a tool. It's not really good at budgeting for you, but it's good at catching all of your transactions, putting them into one spot. You still have to manually go in there and make sure that they are in the right category, unfortunately. But usually once you've done it once or twice, you can set a rule for it to remember that particular budgeting category. So from month to month, you're not having to recategorize that. But usually the interface for your budgeting is not as beautiful in an online software as it is in a finance dashboard. And that would be another course that I'm going to do. I'm going to show you guys our finance dashboard, because to me it's a much better interface. So I'm actually the girl who's using all of these different tools for my budget. Simplify is great for several reasons, right? It's one of my favorite tools. I used to use Mint for a very long time until they shut down. So I spent about a year looking at different budgeting alternatives, and this is the one that's closest to Mint. That's why I tend to like this tool a lot better, because it's a little bit more intuitive to what I've been doing for the past 10 years. It's cost effective. It's only about, they say that the price is $75, but as of right now, in 2025, you can usually get it for 50% off, so you only end up buying it for $35. It's full of really rich features. I'm going to put a video here of me using this tool in detail. I take you step by step on how you can set up your account, features, and how to use this tool. The video will be linked in the description below, and we're also going to have it somewhere up here in the cards. It's very user-friendly and it's simple to navigate. You can automate categorization by linking your bank accounts, And Simplify will automatically sort out your expenses and categories every month. You can create a customizable budget, so you can set up a tailored budget for your specific goals and spending area. So there's real-time tracking, so you can get an up-to-date view of your finances at any time. And this one is probably one of my biggest benefit of this online software. You can have really good reports. This is why I use this online software, is because the reports are really, really good. And there's also some goal tracking, but you have to manually insert a lot of this stuff. The setup takes a little bit of time, but once you've had it set up, doing it on the monthly basis is easier. Thank you guys so much for joining me for another video. It's always such a pleasure to be sharing my knowledge with you. I hope this guide really truly serves as a tool that would help you on your budgeting journey. As always, you guys, I repeat this all the time, budgeting is the foundation of your financial success. Nothing that we talk about, increasing your income through your full-time job, increasing your income in your business, setting up all of those business, none of those work without a good budgeting practice. The next video we are going to be sharing will be the Simplify video. I'm going to be taking you step by step and showing you how to use the Simplify software. So this budget category guide, you can find it in the link down below or in our Facebook group, the Financial Handbook Community. By joining that group, you will be able to get all of my spreadsheets, all of my finance dashboards, and all of my guides completely free. Do click the notification bell so that you will not miss that video. And if you haven't subscribed, please, it does mean a lot. It's a small step for you, but for me as a small YouTuber, it means everything. So thank you, not just for watching, for clicking, subscribing, leaving me a comment. I would love to be here to support you on your financial journey. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.